Today we are covering two horrible cave tragedies. A huge block of ice struck a girl who was enjoying her day with her family. In the second story, a caving team was descending a slippery slope when a massive rock struck her on the head. What happened next was something you'd never expect. As always, viewer discretion is advised. On July 31st, 2010, what started as a perfect family trip in the peaceful wilderness of Snohomish County, Washington, ended in heartbreak when nature showed just how dangerous it can be in an instant. The Tam family's day at the Big Four Ice Caves, a place known for its breathtaking beauty, would turn into a tragedy no one could have imagined. For years, the ice caves had been one of Washington's most visited hiking spots, drawing families eager to see the massive ice formations carved into the mountain's rocky face. The trail itself was only a mile long, weaving through towering evergreens and across rushing streams fed by melting glaciers, making it feel like the perfect adventure. Wanting to make the most of their day, the Tams packed a picnic and set out early that morning, excited for what they thought would be a safe and memorable outing in nature. Grace Tam was just 11 years old, bright, kind, and loved by everyone who knew her. That morning, she walked happily beside her parents, full of excitement as they followed the well-worn trail that so many families had safely traveled before. The mile-long hike passed quickly, the crisp mountain air filling their lungs as their anticipation grew with every step. Soon the family reached the famous Big Four Ice Caves. A place known for its breathtaking beauty would turn into a tragedy no one could have imagined. For years, the ice caves had been one of Washington's most visited hiking spots, drawing families eager to see the massive ice formations carved into the mountain's rocky face. The trail itself was only a mile long, weaving through towering evergreens and across rushing streams fed by melting glaciers, making it feel like the perfect adventure. But scattered along the trail and near the caves stood large yellow warning signs. Their bold words made it clear no one should enter the caves. The ice was unstable, the walls unpredictable, and at any moment, heavy chunks could come crashing down without warning. The bright yellow warning signs along the trail were not there by chance. They were the result of years of hard experience by park officials who knew all too well how dangerous the Big Four ice caves could be. The very same natural forces that carved out such breathtaking beauty also made the caves unstable and unpredictable. Enormous chunks of ice were always shifting, cracking, and weakening as temperatures rose and fell throughout the day, ready to give way without notice. The Tam family, acting as carefully as any responsible visitors would, respected those warnings. They stopped short of the cave entrance, choosing instead to settle on a wide rock formation about 15 feet, just over 4.5 meters back from the opening. From there, they unpacked their picnic lunch and took in the spectacular view, believing they had found a safe distance. Grace sat happily between her parents on the rocky ledge, her young face lit with wonder at the dazzling walls of ice before her. But what the family could not see was the silent danger hidden above their heads. Inside the caves, the ice was never truly still. To the human eye, it looked solid, frozen in place, yet in reality it was under constant motion. The endless cycle of freezing and thawing built enormous pressure within the walls and ceiling, sometimes for hours or even days, until it reached a breaking point. Combined with the weight of accumulating ice and the natural settling of the formations, conditions could shift in an instant. Without the slightest warning, massive slabs could tear free, plummeting down with unstoppable force, transforming from stunning natural wonders into lethal projectiles in less than a heartbeat.
That afternoon, as the Tam family sat together enjoying their picnic and taking in the beauty around them, forces hidden within the cave had already reached a breaking point. Above the entrance, an enormous slab of ice, roughly the size of a pickup truck and weighing several tons, was clinging to the cave ceiling, held in place as if by a thread. To the human eye, there was no warning, no cracking sounds, no shifting ice, nothing to suggest that disaster was only seconds away. And then, in a single instant, the massive block gave way. It tore free from its icy grip and plunged downward with unstoppable force, gravity pulling it straight toward the very place where Grace sat between her parents. She had no time to move, no chance to react, no way to escape what was coming. The impact was deafening, a violent crash that echoed across the forest, shaking the ground and shattering the quiet of the afternoon. In that terrible moment, the family's perfect day was destroyed, as Grace was buried beneath the crushing weight of the falling ice. Grace's parents, sitting only inches away, were thrown into every mother and father's worst nightmare. Their little girl had been struck by the massive block of ice and was now pinned beneath its crushing weight. In the chaotic moments that followed, the scene revealed both the heartbreak of tragedy and the courage of strangers. Other hikers, who had come that day simply to enjoy the caves, dropped everything and rushed to help. What began as a family picnic had instantly turned into a desperate rescue attempt. Strangers knelt beside Grace, performing CPR and fighting to bring her back, even as it became painfully clear that her injuries were catastrophic. Some people worked frantically to save her, refusing to give up, while others made a different but equally vital choice to sprint back down the mile-long trail toward the parking lot. They knew the only hope of reaching professional help was beyond the forest. At the trailhead, cell phones were useless. The nearest signal was 7 miles away down narrow, twisting mountain roads. Only there could they call for emergency services, a delay that made the already desperate situation even more unbearable. From the moment the first call for help went out, a race against time had begun, but one that was tragically unwinnable. The remote location of the Big Four ice caves made every step of the rescue effort painfully difficult. The narrow mile-long trail, so inviting to hikers, became an obstacle course for professional responders who had to carry heavy medical gear and stretchers on foot, with no way for vehicles to get through. Every uneven step slowed their progress, even as urgency pressed them forward. By the time trained rescue personnel finally reached the accident site, 2 hours and 20 minutes had passed since the ice had fallen, an eternity for Grace's parents and the strangers who had refused to stop trying. Volunteers had performed CPR relentlessly, clinging to the hope that somehow she might still be saved. And when the professionals arrived, they continued that fight with everything they had. But the injuries Grace suffered were simply too severe. The crushing damage to her small body, particularly her pelvis, left no chance of survival. When the medical examination was later completed, it only confirmed the heartbreaking truth that had been clear from the very first moments after impact. Grace's injuries were far too severe for her small body to survive. The tremendous force of several tons of ice falling from high above the cave entrance was simply more than anyone could endure. That morning she had set out full of excitement, eager to witness one of nature's most incredible wonders. By the end of the day, she had become a victim of the very same natural forces that had created the beauty she came to admire. Her death sent shockwaves through hikers, families, and the outdoor recreation community at large. It forced many to question whether enough was being done to keep visitors safe at popular natural attractions, and whether the warning systems in place were truly adequate against such unpredictable dangers. For Grace's father, Eric Tam, grief quickly turned into determination. He began advocating for stronger safety measures, urging park officials and government agencies to take action so that no other family would ever have to endure the same heartbreaking loss. The tragedy at Big Four ice caves is a sobering reminder that nature's beauty often hides dangers that can strike without warning. Even families who take every precaution, as the Tams did, can find themselves in the wrong place at the wrong time when natural forces suddenly unleash their power. Grace's death was not the result of recklessness or ignoring the rules. She and her parents followed every guideline, staying outside the caves at what they believed was a safe distance. But the investigation revealed a harsh truth. Around cave entrances, falling ice and rock are constant threats. The natural cycle of freezing, thawing, and shifting pressure creates conditions where massive slabs can break away at any moment. The bright yellow warning signs posted along the trail were meant to keep visitors out of the caves themselves, the areas considered most dangerous. But they could not protect against the possibility that deadly debris might fall far beyond the entrances, into places where families believed they were safe.
In this next story, a woman's descent takes a terrifying turn when a massive rock suddenly crashes down, striking her and sending her plummeting deep into the darkness below.
It was March 9, 2003. The burning heat of Guerrero, Mexico pressed down as tourists gathered at Guita del Rio, Xontocatlan. Like many groups, they were poorly equipped and led by local guides who relied on memory instead of proper training. The guides knew the paths, but lacked safety skills and essential gear. This was extreme tourism at its riskiest. The entrance to Guita del Rio, Xontocatlan was no gentle welcome. A steep canyon plunged into blackness, like a stone throat ready to consume the careless. Climbers faced a deadly slope of loose rock and unstable ground. Every step demanded caution. Every grip had to be tested before trusting it. Maria Santos, however, felt only excitement for the journey ahead. Maria had come to Mexico for vacation, chasing thrills she could never find back home. The group started their descent into the entrance canyon with careless confidence. As they moved down the steep slope, the tourists spread out across the rock. This was their first deadly mistake. On unstable terrain, climbers must keep vertical spacing to avoid falling debris. When several descend together, anyone above becomes a danger to those below. Maria was midway down, stepping carefully onto narrow ledges and testing each grip before trusting it. The rock seemed solid beneath her hands, yet caves are never what they appear. High above, another tourist made a movement that would alter everything. Maybe a misplaced foot, a handhold that crumbled, or a shift of weight disturbing the slope's fragile balance. Whatever the cause, a rock suddenly broke free from the formation above. The stone hurtled toward Maria like a bullet. Just a rock, nothing remarkable, only a few pounds of limestone wedged in place for decades. But falling rocks obey brutal physics. Even a small stone becomes a deadly missile once gravity takes over. Within seconds, it reaches lethal speed, and the human skull, though built for survival, cannot withstand pounds of limestone striking at terminal velocity. Maria likely never saw it coming. In the dim cave entrance, her focus was locked on the next handhold, blind to the death racing toward her. The rock smashed into her head with the force of a sledgehammer, precise as a sniper shot. The impact was catastrophic. The trauma alone was enough to kill instantly. Worse, it ripped away her control. Her hands slipped from the wall, her feet lost their hold on the ledges. In one instant, she changed from cautious climber to falling body, ruled by the same physics that had shattered her skull. Maria's fall down the steep canyon was a nightmare of bone-shattering impacts and grinding stone. Her body slammed into the jagged slope again and again as she plunged into darkness. Each strike added new injuries to the devastating head wound she had already suffered. The other tourists froze in horror as Maria vanished into the cave's black throat. The echoes of her body striking the rocks filled the canyon, followed by silence, broken only by loose stones settling into place. The guide who had brought them here now faced his worst nightmare. A tourist had died under his care, killed by dangers he should have foreseen. Yet the crisis was far from over. Maria's body lay deep within the entrance, and someone would have to risk their life to reach her. The group's instinct was to climb down, but the guide stopped them. The same unstable slope that had claimed Maria could kill again. Every step risked more falling rock. The canyon was now a death trap. When rescuers finally reached Maria, they confirmed what everyone already knew. The combined force of the head trauma and the violent fall was fatal. Maria likely died instantly or within minutes of the first impact. Her injuries were so severe that even immediate medical care would have been useless. Recovering her body became a dangerous technical mission. Rescuers had to secure the remains in a way that allowed them to haul her up the unstable slope without triggering more collapses. Teams were spread at different levels, guiding the body bag around jagged obstacles and shifting formations. The recovery dragged on for hours, each stage shadowed by the threat of new casualties. Every rescuer knew they were moving through the same deadly terrain that had just claimed a life, and any slip could make them victims as well. When Maria's body finally reached the surface, the scale of the disaster was undeniable. What began as a simple tourist outing had ended in violent death. Untrained guides, unequipped tourists, and hazardous cave conditions had collided into a perfect storm of tragedy.